Hi everyone, this is James Martin from Corporate Communications, and I'm going to show you a few things about our new weather widget, which we will be deploying very soon for the digital signage network. Our old weather widget, based on Weather Underground, is going away, and so we reached out to our vendor and got some test code to create a weather widget that pulls from a different service. This one's called OpenWeatherMap. You can see the default, what they sent us there in the full screen version. Down at the bottom in the footer is the customized version, and the customizations here are not just to the look and feel, but also the functionality in order to save us some work. And I'll show you what that looks like as we talk about it. So you can see right now this is displaying Springdale and the time, the date, and all that, and the current weather conditions, as well as the forecast for the next few days, just like the previous version. How it does that, if we look at the player, here's the player, is through metadata values. So right here we've got player.weather_location, the same thing that we used in previous versions. One of the customizations that I made to this script was the new OpenWeatherMap version expected zip codes to be specified like this, which would mean we have to touch 200 players' pages and change their metadata. So I made a modification to it so that it will take this regular zip code, which sometimes confuses it, but only briefly. The other thing I added, and I'll explain why as we go along, is this new metadata field called weather_city_name, and that is for overriding the value that is listed right here. So normally what happens when this script works is it calls out to the OpenWeatherMap API and says, give me weather for this zip code, and along with all the stuff that's displayed down here, the forecast and such, it also grabs, of course, the name associated with that zip code. However, there are times where the name it grabs will be from a nearby town and not the exact town that we're in. This is especially the case in smaller towns, and since we don't want, I think most people would not want the nearby town, could be a rival, displayed on their players. The weather, in the nearby town is going to be identical or nearly so. So we have a mechanism for overriding. The one thing about that mechanism is, in order to get the script to pick it up, we need to restart the player. So I'm going to show you how those things work right now. So let's change this. There's no problem with 72762. That's a Springdale zip code, and it shows up just like it should. But if I change this to 72703, that is a Fayetteville zip code, but it is right next to, it covers a big part of Fayetteville, and including the part that borders Springdale. So if I change it to that zip, save and close, and then on the next page, I like to clear errors before I generate plan. So I'm going to proceed there, and then I'm going to generate plan, and I like to generate plan twice. That is pure superstition, I think, but it seems to work. Okay, so we look over here. As I keep talking, we'll see it update in a second. It'll start pulling the new weather. And while I'm logged in here, there it is. There's the refresh. Here it comes. Now notice something. I know it refreshed, and I know in particular that it refreshed because if you look at the very bottom right-hand corner of the screen, I've got a little bit of error checking here. It says metadata 72703. So I know it's pulling 72703, but I know it's displaying Springdale, and that's problematic. I'd rather it display Fayetteville. Even if it is pulling Springdale's weather, the difference in the weather of those two places, are they right next to each other, is not going to matter. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go to the player, and I'm going to tell it via the metadata that I want it to display Fayetteville. And I can type anything I want here. So if you want to put the state along with it, you can if you like. I'm going to save changes. And then when it drops back to the player display, I'm going to clear my errors. And I'm going to generate plan twice. All right. Now you'd think that would be enough, and I wish it were. And maybe one day it will be. But right now, the next step I have to do is I have to restart this player. Now I'm connected to the player using a protocol called VNC. On Windows machines, there's a little app you use. They'll have to get installed custom, probably, to make this happen, maybe on your machine. It's called tight VNC, all one word, tight VNC. On the Mac, you do it with a program called screen sharing, which is built into OS X. It doesn't matter how you get there, and all of these connections work the same. Since I'm already connected, I'll show you how to do the restart, and then after that, I'll show you how to get connected. So if you have it running already, the way to get out of Scala Player is to hit your escape key. So hitting that drops me back to the desktop. And you can see here on this player, I have a shortcut for Scala Player and for Scala Designer here on the desktop. So I can just double click this to relaunch it. If it's not sitting on the desktop, then you can go to your Programs file or your Programs menu or any of the other ways to launch programs on a Windows machine and find the link to Scala Player. And there is where it would be on this machine. I'm just going to double click the shortcut. If it's a machine you work with a lot, put a shortcut on the desktop. It'll help you. So this is Scala Player firing up, and once it's fired up, it goes to full screen. And now you can see that the deception is complete. Fayetteville is now displayed, and if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see I've got my metadata there, 72703, and that after the pipe character is that extra bit of metadata there is the city that I'm using. I've kept this very small and light so that we can use it for error testing, but it's not going to bother people, even in the field. So that's how you make the switch. Now, let's talk about getting connected. So if I quit screen sharing, and forgive me in advance, my desktop's a little junky right now. So the bits of data you need to make the VNC connection are the IP address and a password. So the IP address of this machine is, there's a global password we use for all of these. But how do we get the IP address? Well, you can get it in the players listing. You notice right now, here's my player, and its IP address is 10.5.4.222. Okay, so I can go over here. I could even copy that if I wanted to and paste it 10.5.4.222. If your VNC has a way of saving favorites, and mine does, you should save this as a favorite. I'm just trying to show it long form here to help you out. So I hit connect, and then it needs the password. Now the password is not something I'll reveal here, and it's different for my machine than it is for everybody else's machine. But no matter, there is a common password for all of them. Just hit me up on Teams and I'll tell it to you. Here I'm going to type it in. And then I connect, and there we are. And since the player was already running, it is running still. If I need to change it, I can hit escape and relaunch player. And that really is all there is to it. There will be some machines that will display the wrong thing, and we'll need to be able to change that. Other machines should work fine. They should pick up the zip without any trouble. We already have the zip as player metadata. There is a default value, so it will not crash if you don't put a zip at all. It'll just pull Springdale or any of the other things I've buried in the script as tests. So it'll behave erratically, but it won't crash. That's all you need to know, I think, for now. Thanks for paying attention, and let me know if I can help you with anything.